Right now, Congress is looking at ways to improve disaster response, highlighting FEMA's actions after the 4th of July flooding that killed 137 people in Kerr County.
So one of the things that was discussed during this meeting was a report by the New York Times that said that FEMA failed to answer nearly 2/3 of the calls that came in from the flood survivors in the days following that flood. Take a listen.
Secretary Noem, under her leadership, she's concerned about due diligence and making sure the American people get what they deserve.
So in your mind,
tax dollars.
15.9% of calls being answered is the vast majority? So is that the benchmark now we're looking for FEMA to answer their calls? 15%, or in one case, 35% in a day, in the middle of this disaster, this huge disaster?
I would have to agree with Secretary Noem. That's fake news. The majority of the calls were answered. There was never a lapse in contract.
Well, that is absolutely not what the reports from these companies from the disaster says. They give specific numbers of calls that went unanswered, and I don't see how you can deny these reports, but I will yield my time back.
She brought some receipts, apparently.
She did.
That was David Richardson talking to her, FEMA's acting administrator. He testified before the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee there.
Yeah, and he was taking questions really from both sides about the response, especially highlighting his absence during the recovery efforts.
You are the administrator of this critical agency. You're the leader, but you did not lead as you are required to by federal law. But worse, you seem uninterested to learn what went wrong and how to respond better. Do the victims and survivors in Texas deserve an apology?
What happened in Texas was an absolute tragedy. It's hard to fathom. I went to Texas. I flew over. It was an absolute tragedy. My heart goes out to the people in Texas.
Yeah,
I know that there was...
That was intended as a yes or no question, and I'll appropriately take that as a no. Mr. Chairman, this wasn't just incompetence. It wasn't just indifference. It was both. And that deadly combination likely cost lives.
Wow, applying the pressure there earlier in the hearing, Richardson said that FEMA needs to refocus on response and recovery. He also said that the agency needs to remove cumbersome processes that will let victims rebuild faster.
Meantime, here in Texas, how to better prepare for the next disaster. That's one of the issues that lawmakers are discussing during the special session that we've been talking about. The committee co-chair said it will not armchair quarterback, as they put it, or attempt to assign blame for the disaster.
Yeah, but leaders took aim at the requirements to be a local emergency manager. Rogo first responders are required to be credentialed or licensed before getting hired on the job. But our investigative reporter, Jeremy Rogowski, explains when it comes to coordinating an emergency response in Texas, none of that applies.
Police officers, firefighters, and EMS personnel all must undergo extensive training and pass a test before they can hit the street. But when it comes to calling the shots in an emergency,
there's no minimum qualifications to be an emergency management coordinator in the state of Texas.
He's Nim Kidd, chief of the Texas Department of Emergency Management.
It's whoever the county judge or whoever the mayor appoints. We're better than that.
Chief Kidd says a mere signature is all that's needed to become an emergency manager.
That needs to change.
That gap in state law resonated.
I'm probably remember a lot of things as we go through this experience together. Those words are going to ring in my head throughout this. We are better than this.
But it's not the first time the issues come up. After Hurricane Harvey, lawmakers passed a bill requiring the state to study and develop a proposal for enhancing the training and credentialing of emergency management directors.
I'm not sure what happened after that report was issued. It was issued during the pandemic. And I think that it's something that we probably need to look into.
The state's top emergency manager says there's no time to wait, given the deadly and destructive hill country floods.
Now is the time to start the clock on an implementation phase for professionalizing, credentialing, and certifying emergency managers in the state of Texas.
Yeah, you know, Jeremy's been really pressing for answers and following this through and through, and here's another example of that.
Yeah, after a tragedy like this one, the back and forth that you saw there, and then the reporting from people like Jeremy really helps to make some changes
That's right.
ahead of anything else that might happen
Accountability there.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some actual changes.
Time now.